Okay, I think we're coming on official 2 p.m. start time.
Let's
Everyone
do
who's
it.
interested in joining, let's actually do this officially. For everyone that's listening, thanks for joining. I got Vinny Lingham here, legendary, like they call the Bitcoin Oracle from back when, God, I've been following you since I think 2014, 2013. To give you a little backstory of my recollection of Vinny, really was gift. Like my wife was using, your product way back then. It was great because it was one of the original use cases of Bitcoin. Like I actually get to use Bitcoin. It wasn't just buy and hold. It was actually spending it, using it in the real day-to-day world. You could buy gift cards with Bitcoin, and I loved it actually because you could just put your regular darn gift cards into the app and not lose track of them. For all those people that have like those physical cards dangling everywhere, and with like maybe $5 here, $1 there, put them all in there. Don't have to deal with the physical aspect of it. It's all digital. It shows the QR code, not QR code. At the time, it was just a barcode. Remember the good old-fashioned barcodes? To scan at the merchant. And so that was kind of my first introduction to the legendary Venom and Vinny and what he's been doing. What kind of We're going to talk today a lot about Solana. All right, this is a new integration in Edge. Vinny was the first person I'd even heard about Solana from. Way back when I think no one had heard about it. We were having dinner, I think, in UTC, and you said, "Hey, watch out for this. Watch out for this chain. It's going to kick ass." And of course, once again, the Oracle was right. It's kicked ass. Top 10 currency within, gosh, how long after they launched mainnet? Less than a year, maybe?
But yeah,
Maybe, I can't remember. About
year
a
and a
year?
half, year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half, suddenly top 10 coin. But going back in history, I'd love to kind of share with people your history in the crypto space. Give us an idea what brought about like the founding of Gift of all things, like actually bringing utility to Bitcoin back in those early days.
This is a
Give us a
great
little story.
this is a great discussion, and
Awesome.
I'm happy to sort of give you some background. Thanks for the introduction, Paul. So I started off with Bitcoin back in early days. I think late 2012, early 2013. So the years of background, I had, and by the way, like I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist at all. In fact, I was on the other side of the whole scaling debate,
So was I.
so you were on the same side there, and I can explain why, and I will, and I still hold some of my views true, but it is what it is, right? So when I started off, so Gift was a digital gift card company where anyone in the world could buy a gift card, and what we found was, obviously, with bots and scammers, they can use stolen credit cards and put a credit card in, buy it. It looks good. The credit card companies approve the charge. We issue the gift card and we get a charge back days later. The problem with this model is if you're issuing a gift card for $50 and you're getting a charge back for 50, it's not just the $50, it's the $50 fee on top of that. So you'd lose like double the money, and the margins of gift cards were like 10%, so you didn't make much anyway. And it was a crappy business that didn't scale. And the more I dug into the global infrastructure around payments, the more I was like, this is broken. And when I came across Bitcoin, it was like, this is amazing. I can send money instantly. Hold that thought for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in
Back in those days, you
2013,
could.
back in those, it's instantly from one person to another, and and you can get the credit for that crypto, and it's a currency people can use. And back in those days, it was like $30 or $40 when I got into it. And Gift said, okay, well, we're gonna, I got the team together, engineers hacked together integration with BitPay. We started accepting Bitcoin instantly, and our sales took off. I mean, we were literally by the time I left Gift, it was over $100 million a year in sales. Like it was a big business. And now First Data bought the company in 2014. I left 2015, but they scaled it up, and Gift's still around and doing a whole bunch of things. But it was an amazing journey on and learning about Bitcoin. So learning exactly how the UTXO model is, I think, it's still one of the more superior models for transactions. Solana uses the account model, different, but I always liked, like, it's kind of like your first love. Like I always loved the UTXO model, and so I was really into Bitcoin, and I did a lot of things, a lot of investing in 2014 when there was a bear market. I invested in a whole bunch of crypto companies, and like Filecoin, for example. And I was one of the only guys writing checks. I just sold my company. We had over $50 million exit, so I had some good cash to put into new projects and new investments. And I missed Ethereum because at the point I was too much of a Bitcoin maximalist at that point, and I just felt that Bitcoin could get there. And I was on the Bitcoin train for Bitcoin being a smart contracting platform for a long time. I thought we could get there. It had script. Script is built into Bitcoin, so we could get there. But we had there was a massive change that happened in 2015 in Bitcoin, where we took out zero conf. So for those of you who don't know the background here, zero conf is just basically the ability to instantly move money from one person to another, and without any confirmations, you could trust that for someone to really go and double spend that transaction, they'd have to set up their own node. They'd have to, put coins into a Coinbase and like do the whole transactions, kind of replay attack basically. And for a 5 or 10 or 15 or even $100 transaction, it's just not worth the effort. No one's going to do that.
Right.
And miners process transactions on a first seen basis. The RBF change was basically made it super simple for anyone to just replay the transaction with the higher fee and then send it to a different address, which basically broke the Bitcoin model, in my opinion. And so, I kind of stayed on the Bitcoin train for another 2 more years. Came to 2017, we had the whole scaling debacle. Myself, you, and a whole bunch of other people. I think we still, most of the people I know still disagree with the path that was chosen for Bitcoin, but it is what it is, right? So Bitcoin now is just like the store of value hypothesis. It seems to be working at some level of scale. It may break, but so far it hasn't. So whatever, we'll keep seeing where this goes. But I got bored with the idea that you just buy and hold coins like Bitcoin and get wealthy off that, and I thought there was a better way. So I joined Kyle and Tushar at Multicoin Capital as a general partner back in 2017, and we went to raise capital to invest in the entire ecosystem of crypto. And one of the guys I came across in San Francisco was Anatoly. So he got introduced me by a friend, David Quick, who said, "Hey, I'm investing in this crypto thing I know nothing about. Can you have a look?" And Anatoly and I headed off. We would, our first conversation was about Bitcoin and the scaling wars. And then he was like, "Vinny, I want this to be 750,000 transactions per second at less than a penny." And we both agreed that transaction fees and finality were the two most important things with a cryptocurrency. And on the basis of that, I was like, I'm in. Let's just go and let's just put some money in, some Multicoin invested, and multiple rounds into Solana. And we got behind Solana in 2018. And when I saw you in 2019, I told you watch out for Solana. And I was just really impressed by Anatoly. And so, and him and Raj just have done a great job building it up. So I've obviously kept close to the team for a while. I was an advisor to Solana in the early days and helping them get, at least past there were some scary times they had.
As with most companies and projects.
Exactly. But, that's kind of my background. And I guess, in some ways I wouldn't have gotten into Solana if Bitcoin could have scaled to do what Solana is doing right now with NFTs and everything else. But Bitcoin has basically been cast into the store of value, that's category. And there's probably a place for that. I do think that the bigger opportunity is not store of value, but I think like gold, like the funny thing is we look at gold and gold's like a $10 trillion opportunity. Great. So gold's $10 trillion. Bitcoin's trying to get to the gold level. That's probably only 10x from here. But how big?
Not that far.
But global money is like $100 trillion market, right? So if Bitcoin can't scale to 100 trillion, then what does? And that's kind of my thesis. Like, what can get bigger than Bitcoin? But Bitcoin drives the market. So until something proves itself, and Ethereum's had its share of problems scaling and cost wise. But it's been okay. I think they've got their fees down. They've got their fees down now, which is bullish. And it's quite surprising that the Ethereum fees are dropping, and the price isn't going up. Like I'm more bullish on Ethereum today than I was 6 months ago. So
not a whole lot has been done actually to reduce fees, to my knowledge. It might just simply be bear market of usage until it starts to climb up again with the next use case, the next big DeFi protocol, the next big NFT issuance and minting and whatnot.
Well, to be fair, a lot of DeFi is moving to Solana because the finality makes the Solana way better for DeFi than Ethereum has got. Obviously, more history and more sort of people have been in it for a while, and DeFi kind of started there. But I think Solana, a lot of the projects I'm funding and working on are building on Solana now.
Actually, the same thing happened with Bitcoin. Remember when fees in Bitcoin were $50 and we never quite hit that level again? A lot of the volume actually moved off Bitcoin and other chains.
Well, actually, that was part of the strategy for the core developers. They were like, take your smart contractors ideas and leave. That was
get the hell out.
Get the hell out. So what economics of supply and demand simply mean that if you tell people not to use your protocol and only use it for a specific use case, then they're going to go and use it somewhere else. So the real question you have to ask yourself is the market for smart contracts, NFTs, everything else equal to, less than, or greater than store of value? My guess is the sum total of all that and anything else we haven't discovered yet in crypto is bigger than the store of value hypothesis. Although that's probably important. We probably need to have a stable-ish coin like Bitcoin. it drives the market to some extent. But I think that Bitcoin's got some good like censorship resistant properties. I agree with like the in theory, but some of it is not. It's not as censorship resistant as I think it should be. I think we're not there yet, and so it is what it is. I'm kind of open minded, and I'm kind of going with the flow when it comes to what crypto is because I've been in it for so long. I mean, at some point you just don't fight anymore. I'm like, I'm just done fighting. I'm like, yeah, cool, Bitcoin's up, great, let's go.
We were both in the whole 2017 debacle and the fighting that happened and the arguments and the flame wars, and now it's like, okay, whatever works, and happy to see competition. I know that one of the reasons I was more pure Bitcoin back in 2015-ish was that I always felt like if something really proved itself and had value, whether it be smart contracts, tokens, whatnot, Bitcoin would just absorb that functionality. That was a lot of the rhetoric. It's like all these altcoins are useless. If they actually achieve value, they'll just absorb it in Bitcoin. And it seems like that's no longer the case. When did you kind of like come across the realization that, okay, these other chains have value that Bitcoin won't absorb?
So it was actually I think my first realization of it was Filecoin back in 2014. So when I met with Juan and spoke to him about it, and we're looking at what Filecoin is trying to do, it's very simple. Like Bitcoin's never going to be storing gigabytes and gigabytes of data on the network. Like we know this, right? And Filecoin's capacity right now is something like 16 exabytes. I mean, people have no idea. I mean, that's like 100 times Netflix's archive size, right? It's massive, and they've got this globally distributed. So like that's a use case which is very unique. So Filecoin got me turned on to the idea that okay, you can use crypto and for something else. And then in 2017, we started looking at all the other things that we could do with crypto. And a lot of the ideas around NFTs were born back then. I mean, I did an ICO, I invested in a company that did an ICO called Augmentors. And we launched it. We basically we raised like 1,000 Bitcoins back in January of that year. I was in Shark Tank the year before. And I invested in
South Africa, correct?
South African Shark Tank.
People that don't know. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm a shark on Shark Tank South Africa. I kind of sit in the Cuban seat, on the tech guy on the left. Right. And we found this really cool AR VR game. Well, it was more AR game, and we invested on the basis that they would create NFTs and make these cards tradable. And we invested in the company, and then we also it was the first Bitcoin investment on any Shark Tank series anywhere in the world. This is 2016, and it was I think it was like $50,000 in Bitcoin at that point. And we did an ICO in January of that year of 2017, and then they actually went out and built the game. And the game kind of worked, but they couldn't get the game mechanics right, so the project actually failed. It's a hard part. Game mechanics is really hard.
You still have to have a good game, regardless of any crypto incorporation you've got. It's still got to be a fun game.
But they built the whole thing on Bitcoin. So it was built on counterparty and Bitcoin. And that was like the undoing, I guess, because of the cost and the way it was just too difficult to do. And, we eventually, the company shut down, but we still have all the artwork. So, late last year, we reinvigorated the team and, we worked with some contractors to basically take the artwork and we're going to release it as NFTs for free to everyone who participated in the ICO. So all the people who participated in an early 2017 ICO are going to get NFTs, but it's going to be minted on Solana because we just, we're in a new era. So now, exactly, fast and cheap. So now it's going to go to Solana. So like, there's an example of like use cases moving off Bitcoin to Solana, and you're going to have a lot more of this happening where, because you can't do certain things. I mean, even Ethereum is restrictive to some extent, right? Because the fees make it really expensive to arbitrage. Like if you find a $5 like you can buy Bitcoin on one exchange and sell it another one, and there's a $5 cost. It's not that attractive when you're paying $20 in fees. But with Solana, the fees are a penny, so it's $5 of free money or $4.99 of free money, and so you're going to get more liquidity going onto Solana-based, trading hubs, etc. Mango Markets is interesting, a few others. So I just think that the use cases will move away from Bitcoin and actually Ethereum to Solana and other chains that support. It's an economic thing. It's not that Ethereum is bad. It's not that Ethereum is bad. It's just that it's like if it's expensive, you can't have people trading differences where the cost of the trade is more than the money they make, and so that'll go off in another chain. I mean, the other problem is we had with I lost my train of thought there, but
Bitcoin.
No,
Solana,
no, no.
NFTs, the game
The
company.
game. Yeah, no, no. The other problem we had with the game was that, trying to get people to do AR back in those days, 20 like 16, 17, it's just like I'm looking back now, like that was a dumb idea. But now all of a sudden, games are like vogue, and you look at rendering compute costs back then, and how I mean, if you look at what Nvidia has done with their new GeForce cards, for example, and how many cores they've now got on those machines, and
Yeah,
like it's insane, right? And
insane.
now that's why I'm super excited about like Render, for example, the Render network, and what Jules and his team are doing over there, because you basically is pooling massive amounts of GPU compute power into a network that pays and trades in Render tokens, and you can use that to pay for rendering objects, 3D artworks in seconds, in like minutes, and it would take you days on your computer at home. So this is like the power of crypto. Like you can use it for GPU, you can use it for so many other things.
General compute, and then of course your first investment in Filecoin is storage. So pretty much all the different primitives of compute, we're seeing that crypto can be used to be able to compensate and reward, build an economy around those specific services, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Going back, related to Solana. Some people asked me. They said, "Hey, you're talking to Vinny. He's obviously been a successful investor." One thing that many people are gonna want to know, and they wanted to know, is okay, what's the eye? Like, how are you eyeing these specific projects? And so, with respect to Solana, there's been many other chains that have really shot for faster, cheaper, quick finality, sub penny transactions. What stood out with Solana amidst the sea of other competitors in the smart contract, and then also in the transactional space, and competing with Bitcoin? Why did that specific project stand out for you?
I totally use proof of history. So basically, time and atomic time clock synchronization to sort out the canonical transaction ordering issue, right? Like how do you get all these transactions, and how do you know what came first? And what I liked about that is you can get 400 millisecond finality on a global scale. I mean, you could probably get it down to 150 or 200, but like now you're hitting the speed of light. So the
How
moment
fast can
this
you move
exactly the
bits?
moment the moment the constraint is, well, we can't move faster than light speed. I think we're getting closer to maximum peak performance. And that's kind of my thesis on it. Like nothing really beats Solana in terms of speed, because it's literally the speed of light is the technical sort of hurdle here.
Got it. No, so with
And
respect to that,
as an example, like the counter example would be layer twos. Like Polygon's been down for 3 days. Has anyone noticed? It's like Polygon's a problem. Like layer two is a problem, and and I was actually bridging some coins into Polygon the other day, and I had to wait 8 minutes for finality so I could like actually use the coins in the bridge. Like these are the problems with layer two. So I've never been a layer two fan. I'm a layer one maximalist, call it that. And I'm happy to keep sort of I'm more excited about Bitcoin layer one than I am about Ethereum layer two.
it's funny because like Polygon is a layer two. For most people, when they actually interact with it, it feels like a layer one. It pretty much you send transactions just like you would on Ethereum layer one. So it behaves very much like a layer one that under the covers is a layer two. Now, what are your thoughts on like Ethereum's actual layer two with like Ethereum 2.0, which behaves and uses more layer two type of mechanisms by sharding and having a beacon chain and then all these other chains? Do you feel like when it finally comes to fruition, will it actually have hope of competing with a lot of the chains, including Solana, that have taken a lot of the volume off of Ethereum? That's what I know a lot of the Ethereum, I don't call it maximalists or hopefuls, are thinking is their next best hope, although it's a fairly complex project.
I haven't spent enough time looking into that. I kind of being an L2 minimalist. I don't spend a lot of time in the L2 space. And if someone tells me like, when Anatoly says, Vinny, you should start looking at layer two, then I'll start taking it seriously. I mean, I mean it because like I really think Anatoly is probably one of the top 5 smartest guys in crypto easily in the world, and so I take his opinions quite seriously. And he's
Would you say that? Would you say a good chunk of your excitement about Solana is kind of the people, including him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a people investor. When I meet people, like I have major filters for investing in projects, and the biggest filter is the people. And so this is one of the things, because I get bombarded with so many investment opportunities every single day, and I have to filter, and I'll get them wrong, and I'll filter out stuff. But like I filter on people first, then I filter on like who referred me, and then I'll filter on what the valuation is, what they're asking, etc. And then I'll filter like I look at simple things like the composition of the email and or how it's come through, on text and you know. Like for example, I block a lot of stuff. So like the moment I see things that looks like very templatized, I just like block it because I'm part of a spam drop. But like warm introductions are the best way to get money out of me. If somebody if you send me a startup and I know you and I say, hey, and you say, Vinny, you need to look at this, I will at least take the time to look at it. Okay, if a random guy emails me, I'm like, I'll look at it for like 10 seconds and go, probably not, right? So I trust my network because I trusted the people in my network, and then also I know who the negative indicators are. So if I get a referral from someone who I think is not very good at what he does, I'm not going to take his recommendation seriously. I might look at it and say, whatever, pass. But it all depends on who's. I think that, this is not a new thing. I mean, all investors do this, but this is specifically when it comes to crypto. This is one which is critically important because of the sheer volume of projects and the amount of anonymity and lack of track record that everyone has because it's a new industry. So you have to look at who are the people behind this, and that's why I have to have these filters which I use, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to function.
So with respect to Bitcoin, early days, who was the person that you had a good filter for? Because it's anonymous, right? Satoshi was anonymous. Was there a specific person, or was it really just the foundation or the fundamentals of the technology that made you excited about Bitcoin? Was
Well,
it a different filter almost? It's almost like you kind of require a
no,
different filter for these anonymous projects?
a really good friend of mine recommended it to me. And
Okay.
I had first heard of it previously, and I kind of dismissed it. And he's one of the smartest technical guys, I know. And at the time, he'd done some amazing stuff. And he's like, "This Bitcoin thing is actually interesting." So I'm like, okay, I looked into it, and I took his word on it, and I got into it. Then I read the white paper like 50 times, and I was sold. And just got deeper down the rabbit hole.
You're fortunate you had somebody. I remember I had to discover it. I had some friends that I found out after I discovered Bitcoin that they were mining back in 2012 and didn't say a thing about it to me. And I just heard about it through news and some bloggers, and had to do my own research and didn't have anyone to trust. And so I thought I was the crazy one within friends and family. If only I had some other support back in the early days. For me, early days was 2013. That would have been nice. And so, kind of getting back to Solana, everyone says that everything's a trade-off in life, right? Speed, finality, censorship resistance, decentralization, whatnot. Would you say that there is a trade-off in the case of Solana? Have they gotten everything right? That's a very difficult thing to do, and trade-offs are okay. I'm 100% okay with trade-offs
Yeah.
as you know what they are, and you're okay with those trade-offs. What do you think, compared to, say, like, let's take an example, good old-fashioned Bitcoin. What would the trade-offs be for someone to do even like just regular transactions? Say you take smart contracts out of it, and you just want a way to buy that gift card on gift in a fast way because RBF's on Bitcoin. What would those trade-offs be for Solana?
So here's the thing. Like, I had that conversation with Anatoly in our first meeting, and I said to him, I said, like, what's the trade-off here? Because let's talk about Bitcoin nodes for a second. I mean, Bitcoin nodes.
Yeah.
How many mining nodes are there really? It's like 1,000, 2,000. How many like full nodes running? Maybe 5 to 10,000 maximum. There's all these like silent nodes out there. Apparently, there's 100,000 nodes. But like, if you look at the original white paper, if you're not a mining node, you're not a full mining node. You're not really a node. So I discount like listing nodes because of the network forks. They can't do anything about it, right? And I know this is a contentious
It is a
topic.
hugely debated topic. We were both
Yeah,
in that battle back in 2017.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm not gonna go into
nodes
details,
versus mining nodes.
but I spoke to Anatoly about this, and I guess we got to the the agreement that, and I asked him, I said, like, how many nodes will you have in Solana? And he was like 15,000. Remember was the number he told me. That's like the level of decentralization he thinks to get to. And where we're at right now with Solana is we're in the staking pools world. So people are staking money through pools because it's proof of stake ultimately.
Right.
So it's not a proof of work network. And I think we get to 15,000 nodes, and I think that's enough. I mean, you're not going to shut down the network at 15,000 nodes.
Is that where Solana is right now? What is the state of the network
No,
today?
I think it's. Yeah, I need to check, but.
And a lot of people say even with there being thousands of regular nodes, listening nodes, and then maybe a
There's
dozen
there's there's
mining
16
nodes.
there's 1,608 validators right now.
Got it. Okay, 608 validators.
Yeah.
So that's still a lot considering the number of nodes in most coins other than Bitcoin. And
Oh yeah,
Bitcoin's node count is, relatively shrinking as people realize, like, I don't really need to run a node, and I can
exactly.
delegate some of that trust. So if, with an equivalent node count, is there any other compromises? Are there any other trade-offs, or are you pretty much kind of the same? The even a trade-off of how Solana does proof of work, proof of stake versus Bitcoin's proof of work, or the fact that it's not a UTXO model. Do you see any other trade-offs that people would consider in evaluating not just Solana, but any other chain that they might be looking at for support or buying a coin for?
Um, from a technical perspective, no, I don't think there's any other major trade-offs. I think that was the biggest trade-off was like, I guess the bigger the network gets, the more expensive it is to run a validator, and therefore the less centralized, the more centralized it's theoretically going to be. That's the big trade-off, really.
Right.
Everything else is kind of secondary.
And that's simply the cost to run a validator because of the amount of throughput that's going to go through the machine.
Yeah.
Right, to be raw computational power. And that is one of the arguments that the Bitcoiners, like the Maximus will say, is like, if I've got to run a node, it's going to cost me terabytes of data. You're just simply going to have less. Is there a certain is there a certain lower bound that Anatoly would say, if we're less than this, we haven't achieved our goal, meaning there's not enough nodes in the network to achieve a fair amount of decentralization, or the cost is just simply too high to run a node? Are there certain bounds that he's trying to target within the Solana network? Like, it shouldn't cost more than this amount per year to run a node, and we should have about at least this many nodes throughout the world in order for us to keep a good level of censorship resistance and decentralization.
I mean, he's more focused right now on staking pools and getting people to put their stake to more validators as opposed to having more nodes. And I don't want to speak for him. That's my understanding of the situation right now. It's like, because you want to have the stakes spread out more widely so that you could have the super minority, just being, there's more rotation happening in that.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk a little about the actual ecosystem. In the last few minutes we got here, like, what can people do on Solana now other than just, a lot of people are like, oh, great, it's going up in value. Let me go buy some and hold some. But then we're back to what Bitcoin was. So can you share some of the most exciting projects on Solana that you're either A, involved with, or just B, super excited about, whether it be the DeFi space, the NFT space, decentralized exchange space, you name it. Just what are some cool stuff that's happening on the ecosystem?
Well, I mean, look, let's start with like the different categories. There's gaming, so you've got things like Star Atlas and other gaming companies that are just building on Solana. You've got DeFi, so you've got things like Mango Markets. You've got there's a whole slew of DeFi projects on Solana as well, and then you've got NFTs, and then there's Magic Eden and a whole slew of those. It's like, so Sol is the currency for the Solana ecosystem. So if you want to be part of this ecosystem, you need to own and use Solana and use Sol wherever you go. And so it's very simple. Like, you should probably keep a reasonable sized stash of Sol, in a hot wallet or wherever you want to keep it, and in your Phantom wallet, and use it for for transactions and being an ecosystem and running DeFi and getting yields and whatever else. And it's kind of degen stuff at this point, but at some point this stuff goes mainstream.
Everything is a little degen at start, for sure.
Yeah, it's
Bitcoin
fine.
was in the early days.
Yeah,
That's
and
fine.
I'm launching a new company soon, but I'll be a bit stealthy right now. But we'll be able to validate Solana NFTs on that company, and that'll be pretty cool. So
Oh, really? You're incorporating
you'll be able to
incorporating
use.
NFTs into the new company?
Yeah, not at launch, but pretty soon afterwards. We'll have we've already got, like, it's already working in the dev environment, so it's kind of cool. But like, I think these are the things I think which make it valuable, because like eventually degen apes become a big thing, and the same way as CryptoPunks have sort of picked up the meme. There'll be still be something on Solana that takes off and becomes highly desirable. And if you own one of those NFTs, that's great. You can use it as a PFP, or you can do other things with it. But if you're a trader right now, trading on Mango Markets, like, the APYs are pretty good. Like, you should be using Mango Markets, and that requires, it doesn't require necessarily Sol 100%, but you could.
So Mango Markets, you've mentioned that one a few times. That's one that sounds like you're pretty excited about. Does Mango Markets allow you to take out loans, kind of like Aave style? I'm a big fan of DeFi with respect to taking out collateralized loans.
You can, I mean, the title on their page is long and short everything. And you've got Serum as well, which runs in Solana.
Serum.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mango Markets. Make a note of that, everybody. Everything DeFi all in one platform, it sounds like.
Yeah. So trading on Solana, if you're into Solana, just use the Solana services. It's great.
Got it, got it. And Solana, just as a recap, it does have smart contract capability. It's not quite compatible with Ethereum, so it actually has its own language
Yes.
for
Well,
programming that people write smart contracts in.
it's not its own language. It uses Rust.
Got it. Yeah. So it uses Rust, but definitely much more familiar to people than having to learn something completely foreign, such as Solidity,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, in a way, Rust is a very nice hardened language too, much more error-proof than most
Yeah.
of the language, such as Solidity. But there is an effort to actually bridge Ethereum smart contracts, if I'm not mistaken, into Solana, so that pre-existing smart contracts can operate on Solana. Maybe it's, I'm not sure if it's a compiler.
Yeah. I think it's
I
called.
can't remember the name
I
of
think
that
it's
project.
it's called Neon. I think it was called Neon. There's some sort of Solana
Got it.
EVM
Okay.
bridge. I could be mistaken, but the problem with that is you can only really bridge across very simple smart contracts from Ethereum to Solana because
Correct. Yeah.
the more complicated it is, the more
not
difficult.
native.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's got its use cases. I don't think it's going to be, like the sort of really high quality developers are probably going to write stuff from scratch.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to make sure to be sensitive of your time. Thanks so much for joining on the Spaces. And for everyone listening, we're also recording the video of this. We'll post this up on YouTube so you can see the full conversation, with some video and audio glory. Thanks a whole bunch, Vinny. Thanks for helping this ecosystem, supporting it, both with investments in the space and being an entrepreneur in the space as well, and also your insights. So super appreciated. I know you're already getting pinged and hit up by people left and right, but if people wanted to follow you, what are the best ways to do so?
Obviously just follow me on Twitter at Vinny Lingham, and yeah, and honestly, just because of the sheer volume of things I get, if you want to pitch an idea to me, just find someone who knows me and just have them send it to me. It makes it easier.
Got it. Yep.
By the way, there's actually a trap there. If you go to someone who isn't like super high quality and then they hit me up, I'm probably gonna disregard it as well, because if you use that person, it's like a filter, right? Who did you
Right,
choose
so choose
out of
wisely.
all the people you could choose to get to me? Why would you choose that person?
Yep. So choose wisely. So cool. All right, Vinny,
Cool.
thanks so much for your time. Hopefully we'll sync up again and grab a coffee
Thanks,
at some
Paul.
point. Glad you're here in San Diego. So cool. Thanks a lot. For everyone else, once again, Solana, it's available now on Edge. Buy, sell, and trade. Download the app, give it a shot, and experience some fast finality, cheap transactions left and right to and from any other wallet that supports Solana. So thanks a lot, everyone.